Okay, I'm going to do a quick sketch just using values here. Very flat brush. I'm gonna probably use this one, maybe I'll use this one. These are pretty much my favorite designing brushes, and I am just going to design a scene. I have in my mind an idea of kind of a castle scene that is kind of like a fairy tale Hansel and Gretel situation where you've got a nice inviting kind of a lodge or a cabin or something, and then somebody will enter the cabin, and it turns out that it's like a labyrinth that takes you all the way into this like old decrepit castle in the background. So the primary read would be around here, and the secondary would be around here. Not normally the best, the most interesting composition, but I want to see if I can break the rules and like not do the whole like S-curve thing. I just want to maybe have the eye kind of travel around and maybe create more of a suspense rather than like compositional precision. So if this is a cabin here, or some kind of a lodge, or some kind of a gingerbread looking house, or kind of a fun shape. I've been drawing lodges lately, so I figured might as well just continue that. And then there's a couple of trees here, and I'm thinking like, it's front lit, and there's some overgrowth, and kind of looks like it's been maybe abandoned or maybe hasn't really been lived in a while, but it still looks kind of inviting and pretty harmless. And then so like a window would be here, maybe a little door, kind of a lantern, something like that. And then our perspective is around here. I'm not going to be too fussy about perspective or any of that kind of stuff, but I do want to get some cool shapes for this kind of a evil looking or maybe old decrepit looking castle. I don't know if I shouldn't say evil because I feel like a lot of really cool inspiration comes from these old abandoned structures that tend to be used for horror movies and whatever, but there's like so much beauty in them, right? And we're all seen it, we're all familiar with those kinds of things. Like if you go to a mausoleum and a cemetery, you'll see some really cool things that inspire um, so many games and movies. So anyway, I'm gonna kind of keep playing with that idea here. It's a 3-point perspective, probably. So maybe we'll have to stick with that. And it is 11 a.m. right now, and I probably only have like maybe 15 to 20 minutes before my wife and kid get home. I'm just kind of squeezing in as an early lunchtime sketch. Because at night it's really hard to do because my kid sleeps behind the wall where I'm sitting at right now, and like my left ass cheek will touch the chair and he hears everything. He'll start crying and it'll wake him up. So I'm not really doing these at night. During daytime, it's a little bit difficult to find the time because I have a full-time job and I'm blessed to have that job, and I am basically focusing 100% of my creative energy on that because I am not taking it for granted. And now I need to sometimes kind of maintain myself and my, self, whatever, self-care creatively so that I don't lose the things that make me who I am as an artist. So that's why I really started this channel as a way to kind of dedicate the time that I need to do these kinds of things and then hold myself accountable. So anyway, I won't always talk 100% because I am really feeling awkward talking while painting. I'm still getting used to it. I think I'll get better over time, and really like the best way for me to do this is to just get over it and just do it. And even if it doesn't sound polished or good. So, gonna maybe go with this kind of composition. Anyway, I'll probably think out loud. I'll probably mumble. You'll hear other things too, maybe. Like lawnmowers in the background or something. The microphone setup, I'm still working on it, but I am kind of liking it better than the previous video because it is the other one was like kind of, it was a condenser mic, and I don't know shit about mics, but I just learned like how that works, and that maybe they need like a more perfectly sound insulated room, and it doesn't really work as well for my setup here because my room is not sound insulated. It's just a regular office. I don't really have any furniture in it to absorb any noise, so there's a lot of echoing. And the other microphone, I had to do a lot of post-processing and sound pretty artificial with all that lippy, crinkly, gross sounds that I don't like. This one seems to be much better. So let me know if this is good, and if you can hear, if you need to turn up the volume or if you need to turn down the volume. It would really help me fine-tune these for later. I will, of course, try to find the best balance myself. All right, so I'm gonna start. So I won't bother even erasing. I'm just gonna like create this shape. So I'm thinking like this stuff in the center is trees. I'm gonna keep on like messing with the trees though, because this is kind of a hard one to catch. Okay, so maybe there's some overgrowth here, branches. And this, maybe I'm gonna lose the edges over here. Fence, maybe, on the front. It's all gonna be front lit, so I'll figure that out later. All right, so now looking at it from a distance, it almost looks like a 50-50 split composition. So I'm gonna mess around with it a little bit more, see if we can find a better one. Yeah. Sure, why not? Cool. And then I'm going to maybe lower this part, or maybe just shrink it down a little bit. Because after all, it is primary read, but it should not be like directly in the center of the canvas. By what I mean by that is this here, this line, and like the house ends right at the center. So I don't like that. I'm gonna try to see if I can expand it or if I can shrink it down. And the cool thing about these kinds of sketches is that, yeah, like you do this, it's so flexible and there's no commitment to any of the stuff that I made. I think this could work right here. And it doesn't need to be like this epic castle. Maybe I can just actually bring things forward a bit more. Yeah, this would be the tower. And then that's the perspective cue right here. Too much. Way too much. Okay. I don't like it. I'm gonna keep going. This would be like a multi-series part video, I think. Because I have a specific idea in mind that I want to capture, like a very, very specific feeling, and I'm looking for it right now just using a graphic read. If I find it earlier, I will immediately stop. But for now, I'm still searching. I think the 3-point was a little bit too harsh, so I'm gonna like back it off a little bit, and now it's just a big block of shape. So I'm going to see if I can find a way to introduce some of the curvature, some of these things. Probably be bottom lit as like the sunlight's hitting the bottom of the composition, and then all that reflective light will be coming up, and then it'll be shrouded in the darkness. Yeah, maybe I can make this work. I think I can actually make this work. Huh. It looks like I'm just fucking around, doesn't it? But it is a part of the process. I'd like a cylinder shape here. These edges will be lost, so that doesn't matter. Gonna probably have some of the foliage, including some of this. Okay, I think I got it here. This feels good to me. Okay, so I'm gonna capture this. By capturing, I mean I'm just gonna, yeah, duplicate and leave it alone. Now, the trick is to select, and you can see this is my selection settings here. So I'm only selecting the dark values. And then I can inverse. I have this kind of an onboard hotkey keyboard, on-screen keyboard setup with some various shortcuts that I would otherwise have to reach out for the keyboard for, but now I literally have my tablet on my lap and I'm just staring at the screen instead of hunching over it. So I'm gonna start glazing. I only got maybe a few minutes of this, so here we go. Just gonna create a layer over copy. Okay, so I got this isolated shape now, so that's nice. And I'm gonna fill that one with a foreground color. We'll do that. Now, lock transparency. And here we are. This is basically the idea that I had lighting-wise, composition-wise. So it's like kind of side lit. And then this tree here would be casting some foliage shadow on the cabin. So it'll be like this kind of shadow. Dappled lighting, maybe a little bit. Definitely in the foreground. So there'll be dappled lighting here. Yeah, introducing the basically a couple more values over here to work with, but not much. Keeping it very conservative, I guess. Yeah, that's the word. All right, usually the window is a darker value, but not that dark. I'll keep it like this. Okay. I think I might have gotten it. And then let's see. So we're gonna lock transparency on the dark values now, and then see if we can get some of these. It's like lit from the bottom, so I'm gonna make a selection here. So I don't know. At first I thought it would be kind of fun to have it connected to the structure in the back, like a labyrinth of some sort that leads you to this castle, kind of like a level design almost. Kind of a level design sketch, but I don't think I have the time to design what a lodge would look like if it was connected to a castle as a decoy. Um, but it is something worth exploring one day if I have the time to just come back to this and have the patience to actually go through the design stages, which are very important to do. Like basically more of these kinds of sketches. I think that's what would be needed. Nope. So I'm just gonna shut up now and then actually think. So I don't really have many soft edges here around the shapes, but that's okay. I'm kind of planning them out right now as I go. So I'm gonna maybe lose a couple here and there. So like there's some fog. And again, this is like really a planning sketch, right? It's not really nothing to do with the final. Well, it will dictate what the final will look like, but all these brush strokes that I'm laying down right now are definitely not final. So like I have my mixer brush here. Lose some edges here and there. And then have some of these trees kind of recede in value. And then there will be like branches and stuff kind of overhanging, and this castle still looks a little bit big. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for something to be this big behind this house compositionally. So maybe I need to. Ideally, it would just be like one big behemoth shape like this, and then it would just have the castle structure cues visible. And that's something worth exploring. I'm just not sure if I can capture it in a sketch. I have to do like a full-on painting for that. Full-on value painting. Maybe I can give it some architectural cues that would show that there's like kind of a thing that's sitting there. There, this could kind of work. And then inverse selection. Okay. It is usually at this point that my palms start sweating, because when I don't have things figured out, like usually in this design stage, my body tends to tense up a little bit and start like panicking. It's like, come on, like figure this out already. You've been doing this for 16 years now. And then I've learned to like befriend that feeling, because not only is it natural and normal, we all experience it, but I think it's also like helping me just remind myself that I do care about this and the solution is coming. All I need to do is just chill out and keep trying to find it. Okay, this would be a cool opportunity for a window. More windows here. There we go. This is pretty much the scale that I'm looking for. I think that would be good. There's a window in the Rapunzel tower. Am I allowed to say that word on YouTube? Rapunzel? Okay, I don't know how this YouTube thing works, if they're gonna strike me as a copyright thing or not. Okay, here we go. More tree. Maybe no, you wouldn't see those from that angle. All right, we need to simplify this area here. Looks like it's 11:19 now, so it's been about 25 minutes of this. And I'll be done very, very soon. Okay, I think I'm gonna use a volume brush to add clouds or some kind of a fog, or no, I don't really like that because it just looks a little bit too cliche, like kind of a horror movie. No, I don't like that either. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna keep it as noise. Just noise. Branches, twigs, what have you. Yeah, this tree here, it's just kind of leans in a little bit into the cabin or into the lodge. So, and then like all this foliage is what's creating the light value here. And it's springtime or something, and it's blooming forever, even though maybe it's not springtime, maybe it's summertime and it's still blooming, and it's kind of covering some of the architecture on the lodge. And then I'm gonna use the different layers here because this is a planning sketch for me now at this point, and I'm going to maybe add some more of that foliage here in the foreground as like a way to kind of lead the eye in and occlude what's behind. Yep. Do I have a foliage brush for this? Yes, I do. Plenty. Do I want to use them? No, because I like the flow that this puts me in. These sort of studies, they saved my career many times. They're so important to do. They're really good for you, for your mental health, for your, as an artist. Whether you wash dishes all day or whether you, code all day or whatever. And if you have that creative inclination that you really want to address, just sketch, because then you don't have any worries about it being perfect or final or anything. And part of the flow is to reduce the tools used. I feel like that is crucial and very, very underrated and very under discussed in our industry or in on YouTube altogether. Not to trash talk or anything, I think a lot of content is excellent and there's so much of it out there. Way better than anything I could say or do. I also think that there's less emphasis on messing around and like doing this kind of stuff, and more emphasis on, theories and like compositional rules and like, hey, don't split these things between, dark and then light. Well, I did. And do I like it? Not really, but I have a plan to figure out how to add more light over here. At some point when you practice, it becomes part of your intuition. That's why I'm saying that like there's a lot of content out there that addresses this kind of stuff. But I also think that there's room for this kind of stuff where it's just more about pattern. Like, see how I welded the shape. So, here's maybe not a rule, but maybe a kind of like a thing to keep in mind is it'd be nice to keep shapes welded. And you've heard about welding shapes. Having kind of a pattern that flows throughout the canvas, and then you can use that to lead the eye, and it's kind of like a dance or something like that between the light and the dark. And that's why I'm doing this is as few values as possible, because I want to capture this like maybe light is on the bottom, but then like the top is a little bit dark and top heavy. So at this point, I think I'm going to call it quits on this one and then come back to it and start figuring out ways to render it. See, like now we're like putting the emphasis of the light on this side of the canvas. There we go. So that way it's a little bit more like that. Visually, not technically where the light's hitting like that. It's probably not. It's more like hitting like this or something. Okay. A little bit of cues here and there. Some architectural stuff. So yeah, we can tell it's a castle because we got the minaret here, or the tower, Rapunzel Tower. And we've got this lodge-ish cabin, but it's not really like a German chalet or Swiss chalet kind of lodge or anything like that. It's more of a cabin with a triangular roof that you you would see in the forest, but it's not. It's still angular, right? Just like the castle is pretty angular in the back. So I'm not adding like too many rounds or like this. This is like a nice cabin with like too much decoration or whatever. Like I'll add those, but I'm gonna keep them in the same language where it's purely like it's simple. It's just purely a small little lodgy looking cabin that's very inviting, very quaint, if that's the word. Okay, so and then we probably need characters. We didn't plan for the characters this time, and yeah, I can like add one that's entering the door maybe, but I'm not gonna like focus on that. So there's the character. There you go. But I'm not gonna worry about like rendering them out or anything at this point. Maybe they're like opening the door and looking around. They're like, what's going on? Or kind of looking in. Actually, yeah. What if this character is lit? Oh yeah, this is how I draw characters, by the way. There you go. So yeah, I did this whole thing zoomed out. It's not too high resolution. 4K by 5K. I think this has promise to make sense at some point when it just needs more love and rendering. I'm going to a couple of birds maybe. Bats. We need bats. Okay. So yeah, simple comp. Emphasis is on the bottom, of course, but you still have some of that mystery up top, and then maybe some of these branches as the tree is leaning in. These branches are kind of pointing towards the lodge, but they're also pointing towards that castle in the background. And yeah, this is how I think for the most part when I make these. I make a few of these per week, usually on like an ideal week, but not consistent, unfortunately. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with this channel, is to kind of force myself to sit my ass down and like actually do something instead of, yeah, instead of not doing it and then like regretting it before going to bed. Okay, that's it. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.